DVR in general, as we all know, an equation-based calculation process. It uses all available data and redundancy with conservation laws to detect and correct measurement errors and convert them into reconciled data set. And that data set would be statistically more representative of the process itself. That's really the crux of DVR. When it comes to upstream in particular, there are a number of applications where this DVR can come to apply. In particular, in the world of surveillance, doing surveillance real time for facilities, metering such as virtual metering and validation of multi-phase flow meters, in measurements about detection of bias and uncertainty reduction. Certainly, when it comes to allocation, it provides defensible allocation because before you do the allocation, it should be equitable one. You're actually also correcting for any existing bias in there, and potentially also propagate uncertainties in process simulation. This is another application that DVR does. Not to mention also in the world of design of facilities, you can use soft measurements where, by relying on redundancy, and that helps to reduce the CapEx expenditures. And for operations, because you're doing that surveillance monitoring and error detection, you're able to do predictive maintenance and intervention. And overall, as was described earlier, really the closest that come to being a physical-based sort of digital twin for the production chain is actually DVR, because you're actually considering all the data in that process, and next to your set of measured data, raw data, you have actually next to it the set of reconciled data that try to mimic or to be as close as possible to the measured data when the data is correct, but eventually points to the data or to the measurements that are spoiling the process and getting out of course and causing potential problems. So this kind of digital twin between the two helps very much to identify problems, but also correct for these measurement data as you do your sort of analysis.
DVR relies on two main things: the fact that we all acknowledge that data is not, or measurement is not 100% correct. So there's always a margin of measurement around within the 95% confidence level of that. But to the extent that the data is still reading the true value within that range, that's fine. So we don't have bias. But then there's also the possibility that measurement could be reading other values than the true value, and that we then introduce systematic bias in this case. So that's one aspect. That means that we can theoretically adjust the value that's given by a given device within its range of expectancy. This is the 95% confidence, and we still be okay within that measurement. But that adjustment might be needed in order to kind of come up with to reconcile the data across different measurements in a given process. The other aspect is redundancy, and that's, I think, one thing that DVR does very well, which is to take into consideration all the measurements that are available and optimize these measurements so that all of them respect the constraint. In this particular case, we have a constraint that A minus B minus C is equal to 0, which is the balance here. But that balance can be thermodynamic, can be energy, can be anything. But at least here, what we're saying is that if you have two variables and an equation, the system is fully defined. That's what simulation does, okay? But if you have a third measurement here, which is in this case C, then what if the C and B do not equate to B? And that's where DVR jumps in, is to adjust these three variables within their expected range of expectancy, and then come up with some new value, which is we call the reconciled value, that fits 100% that conservation equation that's A minus B minus C. So if we have C, B, and A, then the system is over-defined and we have one redundancy in this case, as opposed to not having a third measurement, measurement C. Then in this case, we have A and B, and we subtract, we subtract B from A to arrive at C using that balance equation. So with that said, for mathematically speaking, that translates into something like what we call the objective function that's being minimized here, where we have the reconciled value y and the measurement and normalized by the uncertainty of that measurement. And we try to kind of come up with the smallest adjustment that we can come to this measurement that still satisfies one or more of these constraints, whether it's the material balance constraint, the energy balance, and phase equilibrium, and so forth. So the more constraints you put in the system, in fact, the more you are actually trying to tighten your response and improve on the uncertainty and improve on the granularity of inspection that you can do as far as your measurement is concerned.